friends, this is the Mrs. Volfie from Our Half Acre Homestead. There's not a lot in the fridge today, and I've got some celery that's starting to wilt, but I have some cheese, and I have some ground pork, and I have flour and yeast, so let's make a meatball pie. How about that? All right, let's get on that. First, in the cowgirl, she's locked down, we're going to put about 1.5 cups of warm water, about a tablespoon of sugar. I'm using raw sugar, so I'm actually going to stir this just to help disperse that sugar because it's in quite large granules. And to that, we're going to add about a teaspoon of yeast or a 5-finger pinch. Okay, let's make it a 8-finger pinch. All right, and we're just going to let that rise. All right, let's put this on stir. Add a bit of salt. About 1/2 teaspoon. And let's start adding our flour. And about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil. We're going to let this stir for about 5 minutes. All right, while our dough is kneading, I have put some dehydrated mushrooms in a bowl, and I have cut up some celery and onion, and this is going to make the inside of the pie watery, even with the sauce. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a big heaping tablespoon of my tomato powder. Okay, maybe a big heaping and a half. So about 2.5 tablespoons. And I'm just going to I'm not going to add any boiling water because this stuff will absorb the water, hopefully, that comes out of the vegetables when it cooks. All right, let's go on to finishing our dough and getting it to rise, and then we'll work on the meatballs. Okay, it looks like our dough is done. So let's just take it off the dough hook. Yeah, that's perfect. And what I have here is I have a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of a bowl here. And I am just going to take this dough and I'm going to drop it in the oil. Okay? Flip it over and then flip it over again. And what this does is it coats it with oil and then it won't stick to the bowl. Anyway, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put this shrink wrap on here. And I'm going to pop this in the oven with no heat on, just the oven light. And that will generate just enough heat to rise the dough. Okay, as you can see, I've not cleaned my bowl because it's just a dough mixture that's the residue. And I'm making the meatballs, so a little bit of flour and yeast is not going to hurt this. I've got a big chunk of my sourdough bread here. And we're going to turn this into some breadcrumbs. So we've got probably 2 slices of bread in there and an egg. And in here I have ground pepper, pink salt, and Italian seasoning and garlic. Because we love the garlic. I've also added some Italian seasoning and garlic to my onions and my celery. Alrighty, let's get our ground pork in there. This is our home-raised ground pork. Let's put that down to stir. Oh, and you're going to need some cheese as well for grating. Now, if I had Parmesan cheese in the house, I'd go ahead and add 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese right into the meatballs. But I'm out of that too. I'll meet you guys over at the table and we'll do these up. Alrighty. Now, because it's only 1:30 in the afternoon, I'm not going to fry these. I'm just going to take them and I'm going to put them in the crock pot and just let them cook on low for the afternoon until I'm ready to assemble my pie. Okay, so here's our meatballs. Now this may be a total epic fail. I've never done this before, but here's our meatballs in our crock pot, and I'm just going to add just a little drizzle of olive oil so that, you know, they don't stick and break apart, hopefully, when I take them out. Now, if you want to pan fry them or you want to bake them, that's fine. If you want to use frozen meatballs, that's fine. Frozen cooked meatballs, that's fine too. But this is what I got to work with, so this is what we're going to work with. let's keep our fingers crossed. Alrighty. Here is our pie dough. See, if you oil it, it comes out so much better. Alrighty. Give it a little knead. Roll it up a bit. Let's just let it rest there for a second. Now we're going to cut it in half. Set this aside. And we're going to do our pie bottom. We want it fairly uniform. Flip this over and then hang it over the edge, but stretch the inner pie or the inner dough down into the pan. And let's do our lattice. Again, we're gonna roll out our dough. Now, I'm just going to go like this. Move these all down. Make sure it's going to fit. Just move this. And we're going to roll this up. Just like that. We will set that aside just like that for now. Meatballs, sauce, mushrooms, veggies, and cheese, which I haven't grated yet. Let's start. This is just plain tomato sauce from Italy. It's nice and thick. There. Let's start adding our meatballs. Smells so good. Now, we're going to add our dehydrated mushrooms that we've partially rehydrated with some boiling water, and our onions and our celery and our garlic and our tomato powder. And remember, that tomato powder is going to help things to be nice and thick. Alrighty, let's add some more tomato sauce. Just like that. Just lots of lovely cheese. Alrighty. Let's get our top on here. Whoops. 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 Here we go. Now, remember that hangover? We're just going to bring it up and tuck it in. Alrighty. We're going to let this rise, and then we're going to brush it with some garlic butter before we put it in the oven. Okay, while our oven is preheating to 350 degrees, we're just going to take some melted butter here, and we're just going to brush it all over the top of our pie. This really is truly a cross between a meatball sandwich and a pizza pie. Then we're going to take some garlic powder that I've just crushed up, and we're just going to sprinkle that all over the butter. So essentially, we're doing like a garlic bread top. And then we'll just sprinkle a wee little bit of parsley on top for color. Isn't that pretty? And we're going to do the same with our little pizza balls. These probably won't get eaten tonight. I can freeze them after I bake them and heat them up another night, or I'm going to bake them and I can send them to work with Howie tomorrow and he can nuke them at lunch. I don't have a microwave. I won't have a microwave. But I mean, you know, when you're at work and that's what you got, a little bit of parsley. There we go. These are going in the oven at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. We'll see you guys at the dinner table. Ooh, let's cut into this puppy. You didn't see me. All right, let's get Papa to the table for dinner. All right, Papa, dig yourself out a piece. This is kind of like a cross between a meatball sandwich and a pizza. Move this over to Briar so he can help himself to a piece. It still might be hot on the inside, honey. Please excuse the dishwasher running in the background. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from Our Half Acre Homestead saying, just because you don't have a whole lot in the fridge doesn't mean you can't put together a delicious meal with what's in the freezer and what's in your pantry.